What's up, everyone? So we are less than 48 hours to the Ethereum ETF. And the question that is on a lot of people's mind is, how is this going to affect the price action of not only Ethereum, but crypto as a whole? And this video is going to talk about just that, plus the exact game plan that I'm having in order to make money from this move, just like what happened with the Bitcoin ETF that caused Bitcoin to go up by 80% and the rest of the market to go up by pretty much 10x. I think the Ethereum ETF is going to be a similar type of event, although to a smaller scale, and it's not going to affect as many coins as the Bitcoin ETF did. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, stick around and find out. So just to get into some history, we have to first take a look at Bitcoin prior to when the ETF was approved. And you can see that after it got approved, Bitcoin actually dropped down by about 20% before doing its, 2x move. And if you look at Ethereum at the moment, you can say that it's kind of the same thing where, price did drop, but it's already started pumping. And at the moment, it is starting to look like it's dropping again. Now, this is not actually any cause for panic because throughout this move here, we have not had a single retracement. And if the price were to come down to, let's say, this area here, that would be a really good place to buy. So all in all, don't be surprised if you see some kind of a retracement down to the 3K level before a 2x move on Ethereum. Now, I do believe that the target for Ethereum after this move is going to be right at around 5K. Now, not only do you have the previous all-time high of Ethereum sitting at about 4870, but if you were to just draw a fib from this low to this high here, you can see that a -1 expansion would put it right above 5K. From current price, this is about a 50% to 60% movement, although I do believe that long term, Ethereum still has way more room to go. If Bitcoin hits 100K, like Ethereum's going to be at like 8K easy. Now, for those of you who are, not as turned on by the prospect of attaining a 50 to 60% or 70% gain in this case, don't worry. I'm going to be sharing my exact plays on Ethereum betas and other industries and other sectors that are going to benefit from the ETH ETF news and ones that will have much higher upside. Just like how when the Bitcoin ETF got approved, you saw ordinals pretty much went up by like 13x from this point onwards, and you saw STX do a 3x right after the Bitcoin ETF was approved. So right there around January, boom, right? It went up by 3x. So I do believe that there are going to be similar moves in the Ethereum ecosystem, and we're going to get into that in just a bit. So one thing you need to understand about the Ethereum ETF is that it's going to bring a lot of money into crypto. And the reason for that is because it makes it easy for the traditional boys to get access to Ethereum legally, but it also makes it very easy for traditional finance folks to just get crypto. The reason for that is because an official Ethereum ETF makes it really easy and also legal for these traditional finance boys to get Ethereum. And the last time this happened with Bitcoin, we saw pretty much a $500 to $600 billion worth of inflows into Bitcoin alone. And throughout the entire crypto market cap, we can actually study that. So right before the Bitcoin ETF, it was sitting at 1.5 trillion. And after the Bitcoin ETF, it was sitting at 2.7 trillion. So in total, there was about $1.2 trillion worth of capital influx after the ETF. Now, is the Ethereum ETF going to generate this much of a capital influx? I don't think so, purely because, well, it's Ethereum. But I do think that we are still bound for another $1 trillion gain in the entire crypto market cap. One translation that you need to know about traditional finance boys is that traditional finance boys equal big money, right? These are the institutions, these are the legacy investors, these are the hedge funds, these are the people that have always wanted to get into crypto but couldn't find a way to do so. So long-term wise, this is really great news for the crypto markets as a whole, of course for Ethereum as well. And I do think that this is going to be the catalyst that kickstarts a quote-unquote bullish summer. If you guys have been watching my videos over, the last few weeks, I did post one 2 weeks ago saying that, the dip was going to be over and to, buy in. Hope you guys followed. Like if you guys missed the bottom, don't worry. I'll first share my game plan on Ethereum on what I think is going to happen. And then I'm going to talk about the beta plays that have, potentially much higher reward, but of course it's going to be slightly more risky as well. So Ethereum, just like I said before, it wouldn't be weird if, Ethereum went back for a little bit of retracement before pumping. And the daily chart doesn't really tell us too much. So in this case, we're going to look at the hourly chart to see if there's anything that we might have missed from, let's say, this low here to this high here. Now, of course, this high could, by the time that I release this video, we could have a new high and, we would have to redraw the fib. But in general, we want to be looking to buy under a discount. And a premium discount essentially is anything above the 50% on any given range. That's a premium, and anything below it is a discount. And even just looking at the volume profile, we can see that, a lot of the volume seems to be concentrated at around this area, right? It means that market participants has traditionally really enjoyed defending price at around this level. For example, every time you hit this box, you tend to get rejected. Once you got But, once you got past it, boom, that's where the expansion happens, rejection. But once you got through it, boom, expansion happens. So from this, we can infer that there are a lot of market participants who will defend their positions here. And of course, this lines up with the premium discount zone. This is in a premium. This is in a discount. The only thing that I'm struggling to find is a clearly defined fair value gap that has not yet been filled. I don't really see that. Just based on the original, theory, we were looking at around 3K for a potential retracement. As long as Ethereum dips below 3.2K, this entire zone here is going to be a good buy. One other technical factor that you should realize is that in terms of Ethereum, we have pretty much been in a range since the 11th of March. Right now, we're almost into August. So this has been about a 4.5 month retracement. Throughout this retracement, you have formed some kind of a range high, range low. Recently, you have swept the range low, pumped really aggressively, and at the moment, you have broken market structure. So market structure has already been broken. So this is a classic example of what I would call a broken base. So this is the exact setup that I use. Essentially, you want to see a liquidity sweep that leads to a break in market structure, like aggressive break in market structure, and then you want to wait for some kind of retrace and then getting in. That is the bread and butter setup that I've been using. And of course, range low has been taken. There's not much reason for you to go lower than the next logical price to bring Ethereum to would be around 2K. I could be wrong. There's one thing certain about crypto is that there's nothing that's ever certain, but I do think the possibility that we go up from here is a lot higher than going down, simply because, well, liquidity has been swept and it makes no sense to come back down here. In terms of targets for Ethereum, I already talked about it. Now, if you were to extend it, beyond the -1 standard deviation, you also have around 6.5K as like a long-term target. But I do think that, it took Bitcoin about 3 months to gain, 80% in terms of market cap. And for Ethereum, I do think that it will take roughly around the same time to get to 5K and potentially 6K. One thing you need to know about Ethereum is that this 5K level is a very big psychological level. I would not be surprised if you come over to 5K, like you take out a previous all-time high, and then you just start, retracing a bit. And this retracing a bit, I say a bit, but it's probably going to take a couple of weeks, maybe a few weeks, maybe a couple months. But one thing you need to note about crypto is that high volatility movements tend to be followed by low volatility periods before another high volatility movement. Just one thing to expect. If you are just a short-term trader, you might want to take profit here and then just buy back in slightly lower before the next move. If you're a long-term investor, this should give you zero concern because Ethereum is going to go higher. Use case wise, it is one of the highest utility tokens in the entire crypto space. There is a reason why Ethereum has so much market cap. Everyone uses Ethereum. You have about $40 billion worth of Ethereum staked at the moment in LDO, which I'm going to talk about in my upcoming Ethereum betas that you can buy into to take advantage of potential gains. So that is the game plan for Ethereum. Now it's time to talk about some of my beta plays that could potentially make you a lot more money. Now, the first one that we have to talk about is LDO. Why is this my number one beta play? First of all, this is about $1.7 billion worth of market cap. So this is a relatively high market cap play, although it is nothing compared to the Ethereum market cap. This is going to be a potential 3x play. And yes, I already posted, this piece of information on Twitter prior to filming this video. And Twitter, by the way, is where I'm posting the alpha that I'm sharing when I don't have time or the ability to record a video. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest stuff, make sure you follow me on Twitter at _theartofcrypto. But otherwise, LDO is similar to the STX play from the Bitcoin ETF. And the main reason why I'm picking LDO as the alpha beta play is that LDO is the largest protocol that Ethereum is currently staked on at the moment. There is about $40 billion worth of Ethereum staked inside LDO, as you can see there, 35 billion. And this is at ETH's current price. If ETH goes higher, this thing could easily sit at 50, 80, or even 100 billion. And the reason why this particularly, right, LDO, is because, well, if the traditional finance guys are going to be getting into Ethereum, it's going to make a ton of sense for them to stake Ethereum because, well, these are traditional finance guys. They're not trying to trade Ethereum short term, right? Especially if you're buying into an ETF, you're not trying to trade it, right? You're investing in it, or at the very least, you are trying to swing trade it. And it makes zero sense to just keep that Ethereum lying around when you could just put it into a liquid staking protocol like LDO. In a way, the biggest protocol and the safest and also the best protocol to do this is LDO. And it only makes sense that money is going to flow into LDO for this reason. And LDO is just something that is going to grow alongside ETH. As more money flows into ETH, the more money is going to flow into LDO. And so that remains my number one pick. So talking about LDO, previously I had already called this in my alpha group, which by the way, if you want to get access to my exact trade calls, or even if you just want to just get access to alpha that not many people are knowing about, then feel free to click the first link in the description box below and just reply to the first email that is sent. And this is not as expensive as you might think. But anyways, looking at the original entry, had a heads and shoulders, and I was looking at around the 1.5 area, and so far it has played out beautifully. with this heads and shoulders, boom, breakdown, and now you're going up. So you might think, am I too late? Well, I don't think so. Given the fact that the Ethereum ETF is just about to get started, again, we already have a reason to believe that, LDO is going to achieve a lot of hype. If we just look at this retracement here, you can see that we want to buy in at around the 1.72 area. Now, this would be a good area for retracement. Now, do I think that that is the best entry that you could possibly take? It depends, because there are quite a few liquidity levels that are in very close proximity to each other. So honestly, you won't really go wrong with buying at any of these levels. The best one, of course, would be back at around 1.53. This would be the best level. But in general, you wouldn't go wrong with buying at 1.71, 1.66, 1.58, and of course, the best one would be 1.53. Now, these are all good levels to buy, long-term levels. And the only concern that you might have is that unlike Ethereum, even though you have swept the liquidity, you have not broken market structure. But if we think ahead for a moment that, this narrative is going to play out, then it only makes sense for this to eventually go higher. Now, let's take a look at targets for LDO. Similar to Ethereum, you have this range low and then you have this range high over there. So the first profit target could even be at 2.42, although me personally, I'm going to be looking closer to 2.62. So this is the first level that I would potentially take profit at, and I do believe that LDO is going to go way higher. Again, this is the kind of like the Stacks play of back when the Bitcoin ETF got released. So Stacks, if you recall, started at about 1.7, $1.8 billion with market cap as well, and then it went up by 3x. LDO is right now starting at a very similar starting line. It's sitting at about $1.7 billion with market cap, and a 2x would put it at right around 3.6, which also happens to be the previous all-time high. And also, if you just look at it from a range perspective, it is also the range high, range low, so it makes sense. So 2.62 as a TP1, 3.65 as a TP2, and then if we extend our targets out a little bit further, we have 5.37 as our TP3. If everything goes well, and price goes to 6.6, 6.7, and that's going to be another level as well. So these are your potential TP targets, which at TP1 would give you a 50%, TP2, 100%, TP3, a 2x, and right there about a 3x. Now, is this possible in crypto? Now, if you are new to crypto and you've never ever achieved gains like this before, trust me, this is super easy on crypto. And for the reason that crypto is a very sentimental market, people tend to lean much more towards narratives compared to, actual fundamental analysis. Now, this just happens to be a really good fundamental play, and also something that matches the narrative a lot because, well, Ethereum ETF. So yeah, this is absolutely likely to happen, and I do think that it's going to take about 2 to 3 months for LDO to hit about $5, but it will eventually happen. As crypto grows, as Ethereum grows, this is only going to be like, this is a no-brainer play, basically, because Ethereum grows, money's going to go into LDO, this thing's going to pump. So that is my first beta play. Now, of course, this would be the higher market cap type play, similar to STX back when the Bitcoin ETF got released. Now it's time to talk about the lower market cap play, and that is going to be ENS. Now, for those of you who have been following me on my Twitter, I've also made quite a lot of money with ENS for the last couple months, because I've been calling it publicly on my Twitter as well as inside my Discord. For those of you who are new, don't worry, you're not too late yet. ENS compared to LDO is much less of a fundamental play, but rather a technical play. The easiest way that I can break it down to you is that ENS just basically dumped really hard. You could say that ENS has been in a consolidation for the last 2 years. I know many cryptos kind of look like this as well, but again, we're playing into the narrative here. I do believe that there's a good reason for ENS to start pumping. One thing you need to understand about just the markets in general, but especially crypto, is that the longer the accumulation, more explosive the movement when you leave the consolidation. Given the fact that you have been consolidating in this range for the last 2 years, well, it's only normal to expect some kind of a huge movement coming out of this range. So I want you to sort of pull up a volume profile in your head. This would be your POC, right? This would be like really high volume area. This place would have absolutely zero volume because, well, it just dumped way too fast. You have a little bit of volume here, but for the most part, it's going to be zero all the way up. Essentially, it means that most of the participants that are interested in ENS has already accumulated, right? Price is already above the accumulation zone, and everything above here is just zero resistance. Essentially, if this thing is a ticking time bomb, and when this explodes, it's just going to be a nuclear explosion, sending the rocket completely parabolic. This makes sense as a technical play. Obviously, you can, come up with some fundamental reason that as more money flows into Ethereum, as Ethereum gains more popularity or whatever, people are going to be buying, Ethereum name, service domains. Although, let's be real here, it's probably not going to move the needle as much as just pure technicals. And the targets for this is, of course, as I've marked out already, going to be around $75, $90, and $117, which would give you also around a 3 to 4x play. Now, this I predict is going to happen way quicker than LDO. And if you want to just extrapolate our targets, slightly further, even just looking at the previous all-time high, let's use this high just so we're not, getting biased here, is going to be at about, 150, which would give this about a 6x, and as well as $200. Now, do I think that is going to go to $200 within the next 6 months? Absolutely not. It's better if you play it more conservatively and just, take some profit at 75, 90, and the previous all-time high at about, 120. The rest, you can let it sit as a moonback over the next, few months or however long it takes. Doesn't really matter until it hits, 150 or even $200. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know yet, but I do know for a fact that, 75 is going to happen. Like, this is without doubt, right? The technicals just make too much sense. Plus the fact that you have the Ethereum ETF driving hype into the Ethereum network, it just makes too much sense. And lastly, we're going to have RWAs, or rather they're called real world assets. So the approval of the Ethereum ETF, do you think that we're going to see more of a dovish stance on crypto from the regulators especially? And this is going to allow institutions to know that it's safe to start tokenizing everything. For those of you who have been sleeping under a rock or just haven't been following the crypto markets as closely as a degenerate like myself, real world assets throughout this entire bull run has been one of the top performing narratives. This is, I believe, the second or third place throughout this entire bull run. So let's take a look at the year-to-date performance. You have memes and then you have real world assets that are accounting for the majority of the gains in crypto so far. So real world assets is very interesting because they can be said to be closely tied to Ethereum because, well, they're all hosted on Ethereum, they're all being traded on Ethereum, and the tokens that they create are also being traded on Ethereum. But to be honest, this is just, a narrative that I've been huge throughout this entire bull run, and I hold a lot of Pendle, I hold a lot of Ondo, and while this might not be as closely tied to Ethereum itself, much like, LDO or even ENS, real world assets is something that's going to benefit with, an influx of money from the Ethereum ETF, and my two picks is going to be Pendle, and the second one, which is Ondo. Now, it's interesting to note that both of these, especially Ondo, are backed by BlackRock, so vested interest in them to make them good. And in terms of Ondo, let's take a look at, potential areas that you can enter in. And you can see so far this bull run, right? This has barely gone through any sort of retracement. And if you think you're too late on this already, do not sleep on this. Real world assets have been one of the top performing narratives throughout this bull run so far for a good reason. And it's only expected to keep going stronger. So similarly to Ethereum, you have a broken base where you have swept liquidity and then immediately broken market structure. Swept liquidity, broken market structure. So now you're in the retracement phase and boom. So this makes a lot of sense. You can honestly just get in anywhere from this point onwards. It is already at the ideal entry. Granted, there is a possibility that it could drop all the way as low as, 72 cents. Do I think that's likely? I don't think so. Like, at least the probability that's going to happen is, in my opinion, lesser than it going up right now, purely because the Ethereum ETF is coming up and you have a lot of hype surrounding this whole event and the entire crypto markets as well. And also, we're using this event as a potential catalyst for a altcoin summer. And so it makes sense that you would retrace and go up instead of, break down. In this case, if I had to give you like an ideal entry, we can look at the true yearly open. This, I guarantee you, will also line up with some kind of premium discount zone, and it does line up in the discount. So this is going to be at around 98 cents or around $1 if you must. And target in this case is going to be here at the previous all-time high. This is where you take initial profit at $1.5. You have 1.8, and then you also have around $2.5, which is going to be a bit of a psychological number for you to break through. So let's just say that way. This puts the potential gains for this at around 2.5x. Now, obviously, this is going to go way higher. I cannot make accurate predictions purely based off of a fib, but if we were to make predictions based on market cap and comparing this to similar tokens of the similar use case, you can see that first of all, Ondo is sitting at about $1.5 billion right now. I do think there is room for Ondo to hit up to $10 billion worth market cap. Is that a overly optimistic estimate? I think just tiny bit, but 5 billion, 6 billion is going to be super duper likely, especially because this is BlackRock's baby. This is so far the leader in the real world asset space, and it is only going to continue to grow. This would be like short-term targets. I'm talking like 1 to maybe 3 months, but further than that, you're looking at $5. And if it goes further than this, you're looking at between $4 to $5 for Ondo, which I think is, again, very likely given the fact that this is BlackRock's baby. Could it go to $10 billion worth market cap? Absolutely. Then you'll be looking at $6. All in all, this is an interesting play and one of the leading coins so far this bull run, and not something that you guys should sleep on. I always like to say that leaders tend to become leaders for a reason, and in the context of crypto, they also tend to stay leaders for much longer than you might expect. But that is Ondo. Now let's look at Pendle. Now Pendle is slightly smaller in market cap. In fact, I believe Pendle is about half the market cap of Ondo at the moment, but has also been one of the strongest performing performing assets throughout this entire bull run. Like for the majority of this bull run, right, it's just been going up since like August 23. And it's only recently that it sort of broke down, lower high, lower lows. At the moment, you can argue, yes, it is true. You have not yet broken out of this lower high, lower low formation. But at the moment, you like really need to break above $6.5 first before you can like fully be confident that this is, going to go up. But I do have a couple of reasons that I believe why this is going to go up. Now, this says true week open, but this is actually the true yearly open. Even if we just look at Ondo, you can see that this is also the true yearly open. Now, don't ask me why this indicator is like marking things out wrongly, but fact of the matter is you have the true yearly open, price traded above it for a couple months. And in May, or rather April, you came back down to the true yearly and boom, right? You take off. You see this across many, 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 many assets. This is, yes, a concept that I do teach in my program if you guys are ever interested, but true yearly has just been filled. And the only other liquidity point that makes sense for Pendle to return to is again, like in terms of sell side liquidity, it's like $2.3. Do I think that's going to happen given our thesis so far about, this being a catalyst that moves the market forward? I don't think so. And so because of that, let's take a bet and say that Pendle is going to start its reversal phase right now. And after taking out this liquidity, you do have, somewhat of a strong movement towards the upside, breaking market structure. Of course, this is not the best in terms of technicals if you purely look at it from a market structure perspective, but still it's worth taking a bet. And the discount zone for Pendle starts between $4 down to about $3.8. So that is going to be my ideal area for buying. Of course, it comes down to 3.6. That would be a great area as well, primarily because you have a true monthly open over there for July. Plus, if we go to the 4-hourly chart, you're going to be able to see a couple of liquidity levels really clearly, right? You have a relatively equal lows over here, but just to mark out the levels for you guys, the levels are going to be right here at 4, 3.8, and 3.6. These are going to be the levels for Pendle. And if we take a look at targets, then Pendle is, in my opinion, like one of the fundamentally most sound tokens throughout this bull run, but still I'm going to give you some reasonable targets. A TP1 in this case is going to be at around $10. A $10 Pendle is just, expected by this point. There are people that are suggesting that Pendle is going to be at around $100 per token, like by the end of this bull run. Do I think it's going to be likely? Maybe, but honestly, it's really hard to predict. It really depends on how much hype the narrative manages to generate over the course of the next few months. So I don't want to jump to early conclusions here. I do believe that, if Ondo were to go to $10 billion with market cap, Pendle even just sits at $5 billion market cap, you are looking at a potential 10x from this point onwards, which would put it at around $40 and $30. All in all, a $25 Pendle is like pretty much certain throughout the course of this bull run. Anything beyond is going to be a really nice bonus. I got in back at around, 1.2, 1.3. So if it just goes in to 25, I'm super happy. I do think that it is highly likely, given the fact that this has been, again, one of the top performing narratives so far this bull run, and it's only going to continue as more and more traditional money comes into crypto, and they're looking for traditional solutions such as real assets that are applied into crypto. This is just a growing market. It's a growing industry. Pendle, Ondo are like the leaders in this industry, and so don't sleep on them. And if you watch until this point so far and you would like to learn my exact step-by-step day trading strategy, I've already made a masterclass on it on YouTube. It's about an hour long, super in-depth, but I guarantee you will learn a lot and your time will not be wasted. Check it out.